Welcome to the Sellin' Podcast with Jeffrey Greif. Jeffrey has spent more than 45 years in sales and marketing, and for more than 25 years, he's presented sales seminars from large corporations to small businesses, as well as teaching university students all about the pride and passion of sales. Now, he's sharing that knowledge and practical advice with you to fast-track your journey to sales success. Whether you're selling a product, a service, or ideas, this is the Sellin' Podcast. And now your host, Jeffrey Greif.
You want to talk about some old school selling? This is some old school selling. My brothers and sisters on the path to success in sales, the great Zig Ziglar.
Let me tell you actually what happens when you make a sale. A lot of people don't really understand the critical importance of their role. But when you make a sale, an awful lot of things happen. To begin with, you write the order on an order pad. How many of you use an order pad or sales slip when you make a sale? Can I see your hands? I guess that includes everybody that sells, doesn't it? Well, you got to understand that order pad did not start out as an order pad. It started out as a tree. And somebody had to go out in the woods and cut the tree down before you could make the sale, before you'd have the order pad. You're the person who paid those people who went out in the woods and cut that tree down when you got out there and made a sale. They hauled it to the paper mill. You're the person who paid those people to haul it to the paper mill when you got out there and made that sale. Hundreds of people involved in manufacturing that tree and the paper. You're the person who paid those people to manufacture that tree and the paper when you got out there and made that sale. Not only that, but you see, when you made the sale, you made a profit. Not only did you make a profit, but your manager made a profit, and if you're lucky, your company made a profit. That way you can stay in business. You take part of your profit, you go to the grocery store and you buy a can of beans, and the groceryman there said, if you go buy my beans, I got to get some more. He goes to the wholesaler and said, need more beans. Wholesaler said, if you go buy my beans, I got to get some more. He goes to the canner and said, need more beans. The canner said, if you go buy my beans, I got to get some more. He goes to the farmer and said, need more beans. Farmer said, if you go buy my beans, I got to raise some more to do that. Got to get a new tractor because the one I got's all worn out. He goes down to the dealer and said, hey, I got to have a new tractor. The dealer said, if you go buy my new tractors, I got to manufacture some more. I'll go to the manufacturer because this is the last one I got. He goes to the manufacturer and said, got to have more tractors. Manufacturer said, if you go buy more tractors, I got to manufacture some more myself. To do that, got to bring in iron, copper, plastic, steel, aluminum, lead, zinc, spark plugs. We got to set up factories all over the world. And all of that happened one day, my friend, because you got out there and made a sale. Yes, selling is a marvelous profession. And when somebody says anything derogatory about the profession of selling, you ought to tell them what I just told you. Except speed it up a little bit. I mean, you don't want to spend too much time on it. Whether the person is a postmaster or the postman, whether it's the superintendent or the teacher, whether it is a general or the private, whether it's the owner of the biggest corporation or the guy who sweeps the floor, anybody who says anything derogatory about the profession of selling, you ought to level on them, look them dead center and say, my friends, you've got the freedom and the security and the income you've got because there are people like me who are selling and keeping the wheels of industry turning. Now, why do I stress this so strongly? Because your pride in your profession will give you a definite added advantage over those who do not understand the advantages of being in the world of selling.
Yes, your pride in your profession. It is a profession. Your pride in being a professional salesperson. Yes, we are profit. If you are a salesperson or a business owner who sells, you and I are profit. Everyone else is an expense, overhead. They may very well be important to the company, of course. However, everyone who is not an owner who sells or a salesperson is an expense to the company, period. They may con themselves into thinking otherwise, but they are an expense. They are overhead. If you are selling, you are profit. Everyone else, not so much. Yes, selling, the pride and passion of sales. We are profit. Sales is the greatest profession in the world. And to paraphrase the opening line in the movie The Godfather, I believe in the profession of sales. The profession of sales has made my fortune. Yes. Tom Watson, who was president of IBM from 1914 until 1956, said, "Nothing happens until a sale is made." I'm going to repeat that, my friends. Nothing happens until a sale is made. Be proud, my friends. Be proud. And whether or not you are a success in sales or will be someday soon, it's important to create an identity as a successful salesperson. Yes, create an identity as a salesperson, a professional salesperson. Believe it, know it. As Napoleon Hill wrote in Think and Grow Rich, what the mind of man can conceive and believe he can achieve. Yes, you've got to believe it first, then you can achieve it. It never happens the other way around, never. You've got to believe it first, and then the success comes. How, Jeffrey? How do I surround myself with an identity of success in professional sales? I'm glad you asked. Here's the answer. You constantly fill your mind with success in sales. Read books by great salespeople. Read books about great salespeople. Read the biographies of great leaders. I'm reading the biography of Napoleon right now. Am I just like Napoleon? Of course I am. I'm building an empire just like him. Listen constantly to inspirational audiobooks and seminars and podcasts. I have my sales awards all over my office. Very inspiring. It's an identity of success as a professional salesperson. I also have famous inspirational quotes taped to the mirror in my bathroom, in my car, on the walls of my office. I'm looking around right now. For example, I have a quote from Thomas Edison. I failed my way to success. And believe me, I did fail my way to success. ABC, always be closing, from the movie Glengarry Glen Ross. John Bradshaw's famous quote, the only way out is through. I love that quote. Tony Robbins, it is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. So true. It is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I got that one from a Chinese fortune cookie, and I'm not kidding. How could I not put that up in my office? Sell or die. Now, that may not be the most optimistic message that I can remind myself of, but you gotta agree, it sure is motivating. Sell or die. Get out there and sell. And I've got several hundreds of inspiring and educational books on sales and marketing and leadership on my desk, in my bookcases, on my nightstand. I'm reminded of a very famous quote from Brian Tracy, who said, millionaires have a library filled with books. People who are not millionaires do not have a library filled with books. Think about it. You better believe it. It is true. And talk about identifying as a successful salesperson. My license plate for the past 25 years is selling. Selling. Just like the name of this podcast, selling. I identify as a success in the sales profession. Anthony Robbins wrote, the strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Oh, yes. Thank you, Tony. Yes, you identify as a successful professional salesperson and you move in the direction of success in sales. Believe me, it's true. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. It's true. When I was just starting out as a salesperson, I listened to Brian Tracy's Psychology of Sales, mentioned in a previous podcast. I listened to that audio over and over and over and over again in my car while showering, shaving, over and over and over again. And even though I was just starting out, I believed at first, I would someday be a successful salesperson. And then I came to believe that I was a successful salesperson years before I ever actually became a success in sales. Why? Because I identified as a success in sales. And all the while, I was learning more and more how to present my company's services. I was learning more and more about my clients and my prospects' businesses. I was learning more and more about providing great service to my clients and learning how to provide value to my clients and my prospects. I was learning more and more about sales calls and networking, and I truly believed that I was a success years before I actually was. Believe to achieve. And when you identify as a successful professional salesperson, believe me when I say you become to be willing to do things that successful salespeople do. You make the extra sales calls. You attend more networking events. You send out more correspondence. You contact more people. When you're exhausted, you make one more sales call, or 5 more, or 20. You read more books. You attend more seminars. You listen to more and more informative podcasts. You're motivated because you are already a success. You act as a success and you become a success. Let me ask this question. If you could pick one word that describes you, what would it be? My word is relentless. Relentless. What's yours? Whatever it is, write it down as a reminder to you. It will motivate you. And if you'd like, send me a text or an email. Let me know what your word is, the word that describes you. I'd love to know. Yes, a very important way for you to feel pride in your career as a successful professional salesperson is to surround yourself with an identity that you are already a success in sales. Another way to feel pride in your career, well, I've learned over the years to globalize my understanding of sales. When I first started selling, I read that sales was a numbers game. If I made 1,000 sales calls in a certain period of time, I'd make 10 times more money than I otherwise would have had I only made 100 sales calls. I could make more money, give my children a better education, put a roof over our heads, save money to meet my financial goals. And that's all well and good. And it's true. But then I got to thinking about my office, my company. I was bringing in business. I was bringing in money, profit to the company in order to employ so many more people so they could put a roof over their heads, own or rent their home, give their children a home and an education. And then I realized that I was helping my clients and my prospects, my industry, my community, to help them to build their businesses, help them to make more money, pay their employees, give their children an education, make a home. The charities I give money to, the community I serve. When you see how much others rely on your efforts and your success, now that's motivating. Oh, you better believe it, my friends. I am very proud to be a salesperson, very proud indeed. Whether you are a salesperson or a business owner who sells, when you identify yourself to yourself, and when you identify yourself to everyone who you meet that you are a successful professional salesperson, it will motivate you. You will find the energy necessary to become an even greater salesperson. You'll have the courage to face the adversity of sales, the rejection, because you're proud to be a successful professional salesperson. You'll have the confidence because you have learned how to prepare for all aspects of the sales process. And you'll be bold because you know it is by facing your fears and the inevitable challenges of sales, the technological changes, the competition, the vicissitudes in the marketplace, and the vicissitudes in your life. You will be forced to face yourself. You'll be forced to learn and improve, constantly learning and improving. I don't have any specific links in this episode of the Sell-In Podcast. I just highly recommend you go on Audible or YouTube and download some of Zig Ziglar's presentations on sales. Thank you, Zig. Thanks for everything. I identify as a salesperson, and you better believe I am very proud to be a salesman. The pride and passion of sales. Now get out there and sell.
We hope you found this episode of the Sell-In Podcast helpful and of interest. Please make sure to like, rate, and review, and mention this podcast to a friend or a business associate. Have a comment about this podcast? Have a topic you'd like Jeffrey to discuss? Feel free to contact Jeffrey directly at jeffrey@sellin.net. He'll read and review every one of your emails. That's jeffrey@sellin.net. .net as in networking for success in sales. Now, take what you've learned today and get out there and sell. See you next time on the Sell-In Podcast.